Hello everyone, this is Tetrafolium. If you don't watch some of my content, like the tournament coverage that I've done, or like the streams that I do with Zets, then maybe this is the first time you're seeing my face. I don't know actually if this video will be seeing public access on my channel. We'll have to see. I'm recording with my earbud audio, so it's probably not going to be as good as my normal microphone. I'm also with my phone camera, so it's not as good quality as OBS. So yeah, I'm in Yokohama, Japan right now as I'm filming this. Let's see if I can show some of the buildings here. That's kind of cool, isn't it? There's a big Ferris wheel around here somewhere. I'm not that close to it, but maybe we'll see it eventually. But this is not me vlogging in Japan, because that's not my style of content, and I feel like I would do a really bad job at it. But we're going to do a bad job at something else here. I want to talk a little bit about Pokemon Champions, which has just come out. I have not gotten the chance to actually play it myself, because I've been, well, in Japan for this past week. But I have seen some of my friends playing it, and I do have some thoughts on it. First of all, let's address the scary elephant that some people may be worried about. Will Champions be replacing Showdown? Short answer, no. Well, probably not. Longer answer, there's, for me especially, as somebody who likes to play a format that is not the standard format, i.e. like current gen VGC, like I'm never gonna play something official Nintendo that is going to really like get what I want out of my Pokemon playing experience, right? And especially an old gen like Gen 3. Like, that's just not going to be in Champions. They're not going to revert the mechanics. They're not going to, like, reduce the decks down to the original 386 or whatever it is that you're allowed to use in Gen 3. Well, obviously with Uber's exceptions. But yeah, that's not a format that will exist in a current active Nintendo game, all right? Or I should say Pokemon game. But they're beyond even that. Let's say, hypothetically, I'm interested in playing like a modern gen singles format. Like, let's say I want to play like Scarlet and Violet OU, or a facsimile of it, or a similar type of format, right? 6v6, I also am not confident will ever be something that is easily able to be done on official Nintendo formats, or like playing it. They talk a lot about the battle timer, they being people who are more in tune with the official means of playing. Like, say, for example, Joey Pokegame, or Pokegame MD. He is a content creator, I'm sure you're familiar with him, who oftentimes likes to play on the cartridge so that he can film cool Draft League videos. And I see the appeal of that, and I like watching his videos myself for a time. And it does look a lot better when you play it on the cartridge. But sometimes the battle timer, and it's really windy out here, is not, how should I say, it's not conducive to a must not take longer than, I believe in Sword and Shield it was something ridiculous like 10 or 12. And nowadays I think you can go up to 10, which for Gen 9, very, very few games should be going over an hour. But, you know, like from like a Gen 3 perspective, especially the teams I like to play, sometimes you could have like a 200, 300 turn game that could take an hour. And yeah, not like that being forced to a draw or forced to whoever has the best that feels awesome. And yeah, but I understand why it has to be that way, or at least tournament format. So that's why doubles is favored as the official style, because those games are a lot faster paced, and I understand that, and that's cool. But you know, I like singles because it reminds me of the in-game experience from when I was a kid. Like competitive is like playing in-game, like when you fight a route trainer, except all the route trainers are really, really good and running the best possible teams, and I'm trying to test my mettle against that, you know? That's what I want out of an experience. Oh look, the Cup Noodles Museum. I don't know if I showed that off very well. Let's see if I can. There it is. It's a little hard to see, but maybe I'll go to that tomorrow when it's open. Yeah, so there's so there's no chance that I think Champions would replace Showdown, even for the modern gen 6v6 player experience. Now, it could replace VGC, like cartridge style VGC. I could definitely see that. And I think that's probably where Champions is gonna go. At least that's what I think the smart money would be on. And it would be, I think, better if the implementation is good, because it means that you don't have to continually make people buy like the new games who just want to compete in the official format. I mean, if they buy the new games and that is helping them in some way, then that's okay, that's fine. But you know, they don't have to continually like update the software or update the hardware to keep the competitive experience going. So I think that's an avenue there. And I don't think, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, if you're a BGC player, if you would prefer to have to buy whatever the like Wind and Waves when that comes out, and have to play on cartridge there rather than play on Champions, if Champions is a playable experience. Now the question becomes, is Champions going to be a playable experience? From what I have seen, Champions has some major performance issues, and that's really sucks, because the reason why you would play Champions over something like Showdown is because you want to see the animations. You like the aesthetics of Pokemon battling, and if you have performance issues where the game is like running very choppily, you're not getting consistent frame rates, that kind of ruins the whole aesthetic of the game, right? It's not a very pretty game when you're constantly having to wade through slowdown and stuff like that. That's not ideal. Oh, there's the Ferris wheel. I think you can see that. I'm not sure. So yeah, that's already like a big detractor from the reason why you would want to play something like Champions. The other thing is just that needs to be fixed. There's no like that's not acceptable to keep it in that state. So whatever they need to do to fix the performance issues, they need to get on that. But I want to talk about as well the content that's available in the game. And now this is where I might be a little bit off base on some of this, because once again, I haven't gotten a chance to play it myself. So I'm kind of going secondhand based on what I've seen and heard from friends of mine who play the game, or who have gotten the chance to play the game. The amount of Pokemon that are available, I think there's only about 160. That's not very many. Let me think. That is less than you would even have available in Gold, Silver, Crystal, right? And yeah, so we've never had as few as that in a competitive format since RBY, which was not really designed particularly to be a competitive experience. Now, I'm not saying that it's not possible to have a competitive RBY experience, or that, you know, Pokemon was ever really designed primarily to be a competitive experience. But the fact of the matter is, Champions is supposed to be the battle simulator, essentially. It is supposed to be a competitive experience, and releasing with only 160 available is kind of weak, and it makes the format, at least right now, feel pretty sparse, and there's not going to be a lot of variety, I don't think. You know, for example, when you have Pokemon like Mega Floette, who are probably going to be pretty dominant. I think like Mega Gengar is allowed as well. Pretty dominant, alongside some of your others like Simipour and well, I'm not entirely sure all the 160 off the top of my head, but like that, you know, Simipour is not getting used on serious teams, and if it is, correct me if I'm wrong, but like you're not going to see it very much. So yeah, it's already going to be a pretty sparse format. Now that's okay, because I assume that they're going to allow for more Pokemon in the not too distant future. So maybe it's just like they want to keep it low and figure some things out before they really let the dogs loose, as it were. But yeah, I'm not in love with that. I'm also not in love with the item list that has been allowed. Now, again, I understand, like, maybe you don't want to have access to literally all the items, like Clear Amulet and Covert Cloak and Weakness Policy and all that, while you're still kind of easing new players into the game. It's like too much too many cooks is gonna spoil the pot. But like, we have choice scarf, right? But we don't have choice band. We don't have choice specs. But we do have bright powder and focus band and King's Rock, like all these RNG items that kind of make the game suck a little bit. So I do question what the priorities list of the developers are there. Like, you know, I'm okay if those RNG items stay in the game, even though I don't think there's a place for them in competitive. Yes, I do know that some of these items, I believe, at least Focus Band and King's Rock are allowed in ADV, which, I mean, personally, I don't think they should be. I'm not that pressed about banning them, though, because they are not very easily abusable in ADV, at least not as much as they are in future generations, where they are banned for the most part. So I don't that let's forget that tangent for a moment. But like, yeah, I'm a little questioning what the thought process was there by not including like items that I think are pretty relevant to the competitive experience, like choice band, choice specs, assault vest. I mentioned covert cloak as like okay, maybe back off on that if you want, but that's a really good item, I think, for modern competitive. Heavy duty boots, that not existing is kind of crazy. Now, granted, for a doubles format, heavy duty boots is probably not a super relevant item anyway. Maybe it gets used, but I kind of doubt it, because hazards are very, very weak in comparison to how they are in singles, because doubles is it's a less switch heavy format, and the pace of the game is too fast for hazards to really like attain as much value as they do in singles. But that being said, like, to not have those items and then to have freaking bright powder, like, come on, man, that's crazy. So more on that, or I should say more on some of the choices that I'm not a big fan of, the monetization of the game. This is where I probably have the least amount of knowledge in what it is, so take it with a little bit of grain of salt. And I'm also going to talk a little bit more generally, not get into too many of the specifics of like what's in the season pass and all that, or how much it all costs, because I just don't know that off the top of my head. I don't really love the live service formats of like modern gaming as a whole. I think it cheapens the experience, especially on launch, for the sake of selling you content that we used to be able to get in an entire package at launch previously. Like, I mean, even like the DLCs in the mainline Pokemon games, I feel like if these games came out 10 years ago, like, they would just be post-game content, like the Isle of Armor and the Crown Tundra in Sword and Shield. That would be like post-game areas, like fight area, survival area, were in Pokemon Platinum. Now, I do like that there's not a third region or a third version anymore, because that was always kind of dumb. That in a sense, that was basically DLC, but you had to pay full price for it and replay the content. So that practice I'm okay with going away, but like modern DLC, I'm not a huge fan of it. Now I know that there's more content in theory, there's more content in something like the Crown Tundra or the Indigo Disc or whatever the name of all the other DLCs are, than there is in like the fight area. But like, I mean, the games are more expensive. The scale is increasing. Like, I kind of expect that they are going to have a little more content, right? And you know, if you really, really want more compensation for it, then sell the game for a higher price and have it available at launch, you know? Not saying you should sell it for $100, like probably like you would have to spend to get the game plus all the DLC for it nowadays, but you know, if you're going to sell the game for $70, $75 or whatever and have all of that content packed in on launch, then I don't think people are going to be that or have that much of a complaint about it. Maybe I'm off base on that, I don't know. I don't buy the DLCs for the Pokemon games, but yeah. I also don't like Pokemon Home as the method of transfer. You know, we used to be able to transfer Pokemon for free, and now you have to buy a subscription for it. That seems kind of crazy to me, but that's just how it is nowadays. And that's kind of segueing into home integration into Champions. So, you know, it does make sense that, you know, you probably might want to be able to integrate your Pokemon into Champions. Like if you're somebody who makes competitive teams to play on cartridge as it is today, like it would be nice to reward your efforts by allowing you to continue to transfer that progress into Champions. But it does leave those of us, which, I mean, I'm not sure if I should even include myself in the us, who do not do that, kind of at a disadvantage. Now, yeah, I mean, we haven't put in as much effort as somebody like say like a Wolf Glick, who does this for a living and has spent hours presumably collecting Pokemon, or the people who make his Pokemon for him through whatever means that is, like their effort is not in vain. But it does make it less accessible for players who are maybe like coming into Champions as their first time really engaging with the competitive experience, or for players who are like coming back to Pokemon because they like the idea of like, oh, I like the battle simulator. Like maybe they were the type of person who would try to play by whatever means a competitive game on, say, Battle Revolution or like Stadium, like the real Unk status, but like, you know, they were never really that into it on cartridge for whatever reason, and they're coming back. They're like, all right, I'm really about this now. I'm gonna give this an honest effort. Well, tough luck, man. If you don't have the Pokemon Home subscription, plus like the recent games to transfer the Pokemon into, including Legends ZA, and possibly Legends Arceus, who do not have a standard cartridge format to play competitive on anyway. So if you were somebody who was buying Pokemon games to play competitively, or if that's like the thing that draws you to buying the games at all, / you don't care about the mainline games, like you may not have those. Like personally, I didn't buy Legends Arceus. Now I heard it was a good game, but like it's like I want to play. I mean, I know that Pokemon kind of gets a bad rap for being the same game every time, but like I like that format. Like I want to play games that are similar to that each time. And you know, Arceus, I appreciate that they're doing something different, but it's not exactly what I'm quite looking for. I would love for them to continue to make these games and execute on the concept, but it's probably not for me, and that's okay. But what's not okay is that those are Pokemon, like the Pokemon available there are sometimes, like this is Legends ZA or Arceus is the only way to get those into the mainline Pokemon games. Like, could you imagine if the only way to get a Pokemon for your competitive team was that you had to play like new Pokemon Snap or like Pokemon Go or like Mystery Dungeon? I mean, I'd be fine with that, but personally, but like I don't like the idea of you have to play a spin-off game to have access to just any Pokemon that you might want for your particular playthrough. And I mentioned, I think, Mega Floette earlier. I think if you don't want to spend like actual money to just get one Pokemon, i.e. Mega Floette, you have to have already owned Pokemon Legends. You know, correct me if I'm wrong, because I maybe should have done a little bit more research into that, but yeah, as you don't want to spend all like money literally to get one of the 160 Pokemon that's available, you're screwed. And like a Pokemon like Mega Floette, I feel like would be one of the better Pokemon in the format. So isn't it like literally pay to win? You know, granted, yes, all these free-to-play games are like, it's cope to think that they're not pay to win. Very few like free-to-play games do not end up being this sort of even playing field for people who do not spend money versus people who do spend money. I mean, there are some, don't get it wrong, but it's rare. So I'm not expecting Champions to be that per se, but I would love for people to have the option to like earn it instead of pay for it, and not have to spend $60 to $70 buying a game that they did not have interest in playing before Pokemon Champions came out. I think that's not like too crazy an ask. I mean, the concept of transferring Pokemon from old games to new has always been insane. Like, could you imagine in Smash Bros. If it's like, okay, I really, really, really like, I don't know, we'll say Marth's Neutral B from Melee. And I'm not a big fan of how it is in Ultimate. So let me go buy Melee and transfer Marth from Melee to Ultimate so that I can get Marth's Neutral B from Melee as an option for him in the mainline game. That's like what transferring Pokemon with moves was back in the day. Now they have fixed that. I think in Home, when you transfer a Pokemon into a new game, that Pokemon is bound to a certain learn set, and if it has moves that are no longer in its learn set, then you don't get to transfer those moves, which honestly I think is a good thing. But like, take it a step further, like let's say Smash 4, right? Not every character was available in Smash 4. I think, for example, like Ice Climbers was not playable. Could you imagine it's like, okay, well, I own Brawl, so I'm going to transfer Ice Climbers into Brawl, and now I get to play with Ice Climbers, but all of you who don't have Brawl are going to have to buy Brawl for the privilege to even play such a character. That's kind of insane. So yeah, Pokemon has always been kind of bad about that. But Champions has the opportunity to fix it, and well, I just don't think they're going to, which is a damn shame. Now I'll talk about some changes that I do kind of like. I'm gonna have some sort of complaints to levy still, because I just like complaining. But I will say, for the most part, I do like some of these changes. Now, they made some changes to the RNG status effects. So, namely, paralysis, sleep, and freeze. Paralysis now is a 1 in 8 for you to get fully paralyzed instead of a 1 in 4. That's good. I like that. And for those of you who are more familiar with ADV, paralysis has already been nerfed a few times. I don't remember which generations these happened in. I think either 6 or 7, so there you go. You can't really see my hands doing it. I'm holding the camera, but I did the thing. The kids will like that one. Yeah. You can no longer paralyze electric type Pokemon. So Zapdos can now switch into Thunder Wave, which is cool. Thunder Wave is also only 90% accurate, so that's cool. These are, again, old changes, so don't think I'm saying that Champions introduced these. Champions doesn't get credit for all of this. And your speed is only halved rather than quartered, which I think is there's some good and some bad about that. Like, there's already a little bit more counterplay to the speed reducing effects in the form of like the Choice Scarf, which boosts your speed a little bit. Now, granted, most of the time, like in Gen 4, if you were Choice Scarf and you got paralyzed, you were kind of screwed anyway. You're not outspeeding most things, but like there was a little bit of offset there. But yeah, now it's only halved, which, I mean, I'm not, I don't know if I prefer or do not prefer that. It kind of just changes what you're able to like beat with that, I guess. Maybe it's a good thing that it's not so powerful that it completely ruins the speed of some Pokemon. Like some really fast Pokemon can still outspeed your really slow guys, and maybe that's fine. But yeah, the full paralysis effect has always been the point of contention with paralysis. Like you would use Thunderwave on Pokemon that were already really slow for the chance to just steal free turns, which yeah, I mean, duh. Like otherwise, we'd be trying to switch Snorlax into every Thunderwave, which, like, you don't always, like, yeah, you could do that, but you don't really want to, because you don't want your Snorlax to lose turns. So, like, that effect being halved, I think is good. It does beg the question, which is going to be the case with the other statuses as well. Do you, like, is it okay that the effect is less likely when we could have just gotten rid of it? Now, I don't know if paralysis would be that great an effect if it just halved, or even if it just quartered speed. Of course, you probably would still use it, but it wouldn't. Moves like Thunderwave would be a lot less valuable if you couldn't also gain turns with it. But then that's the question is, like, is that okay for the game to have those effects? I don't know. The argument that I've heard, which I think has some credence, is like, well, Pokemon is a game about risk management, and a part of the skill expression is managing the risk of losing turns to paralysis. So if, like, regardless of what percentage chance that is to happen, like, it is a part of the game to play around that. So if you don't like that, then, like, you don't like the core of the Pokemon competitive experience. Well, okay, maybe I don't necessarily 100% get on board with that conclusion, but I do think that it's coming from kind of the right place. Like, yeah, there is RNG in Pokemon, and, like, yeah, we could get rid of it, but, like, then that loses the identity of Pokemon. I did a series of polls asking about what you guys think about RNG mechanics, and I will follow up with a video on that when I get back from my trip here. But I mean, a little spoiler into my thoughts, I do think some RNG is good for Pokemon, because it makes it feel like a distinct experience from other competitive games that we could be playing. I like the excitement. I like the risk management. So, like, I don't hate that the effect of full paralysis still exists in the game, but I'm okay that it got halved. I think 1 in 8 is fairly reasonable. Like, it's not usually going to win somebody a game for getting the full paralysis, but it is an effect that you want to play around so that you don't have to so that you try not to lose to it, it'd be kind of lame if you had a status effect where it's just like, oh, I just play into it because, like, it's such a low risk of happening anyway. Like, playing into crits is one thing, but playing into like, oh, I don't care about all my Pokemon getting paralyzed because I can just allow all that to happen and get through it anyway, is a little bit, like, I don't know. I hope you are sort of sticking with me, even though I'm not very articulate in that thought. Sleep is now capped at 2 turns. This is down from 3 in generation 9. I mean, I think it's been 3 for a few generations now. I think maybe since Gen 5, although Gen 5 has some uniquely terrible sleep mechanics, which is why it's banned. It's banned in Gen 4 as well, which does not have the uniquely terrible sleep mechanics. It's kind of an interesting thing. But yeah, I think in Gens 3 and 4, you can be asleep for up to 4 turns, which is kind of gross. But now you can only be asleep up to 2 turns. You have a 1/3 chance to wake up after 1 turn burned, and then 2/3 for 2 turns. You're guaranteed to sleep 1 turn. So it's still an effect that I think you would have to have sleep clause for, at least on a competitive singles point of view. But I do like that it doesn't, at best, you're getting 1 free turn out of it. So it's a little bit of more risk for the person clicking the sleep move, which I think is a good thing, and it's a little bit easier to play into because it's one of those things where you kind of have to play into it. I'm not a huge fan of sleep just as a mechanic in the game. I think it's way too low drawback, and there's like no it's kind of low interaction. Sleep clause at least makes it somewhat interactive, but like it's not the ideal thing, but it is in the game, and I've accepted that, and I still like playing Pokemon even when sleep is in the game. So the fact that they have made it a little bit easier to play into, I think that's good. Freeze. I think freeze is the big one. It's capped at 3 turns. You will always thaw, I think, after 3 turns of being frozen, which is good, because previously you could stay frozen indefinitely, which is not good. I mean, of course, if you use the move Scald or Sacred Fire, which is kind of low availability, especially in current gen, both of those moves. Scald a little bit more available in like the fairy gens, like 6, 7, and 8. There you go, I said 6, 7 again. But it's how should I say? That wasn't always like the most consistent counterplay into freeze, which is pretty hard to play around anyway, because Ice Beam and Blizzard not so much, but Ice Beam is such a good move. It would get used regardless of whether there's a freeze chance on it or not. So yeah. The other things about it, freeze, now you have a 25% chance to thaw rather than a 20, which is also, I think, good. Again, it does beg the question, like, why do we even need freeze to exist in the game? It's not really that distinct from sleep. So, like, why do we need another status condition that just, like, steals free turns? And it's not even one, it's just, like, a secondary effect that's put on Ice-type moves as it is. I wouldn't have been sad if they dropped freeze from the game. I wouldn't have been sad if they changed it so that it was like Frostbite from Legends Arceus. which I think is a little bit more of an interesting mechanic, but alas, it just is what it is. I'm happy with the incremental steps, but like, it does once again beg the question, like, is that enough? Are we just kind of like kicking the can down the road? Will we have to change this again because we realize like it doesn't really change that much? Like, the hacks is still hacks, right? And I'm okay with some hacks. I was okay with the state of the game before. I think that this is an improvement, so I guess that's like nothing to really complain about. But it again begs the question: could we get even better and just eliminate some of this stuff? I don't know. Well, but that's kind of like mostly what I have for this, and I'm kind of back where I was looking to end up here. So that was a good exercise for me, a good exercise in thought, and for at least for me in walking. I'd recommend that you guys get some exercise, touch some grass as well. And I don't just mean playing Celebi in ADV, which I do recommend that as well. So I'm going to end this off here. We'll see if this is good enough to upload. And I hope you all enjoy yourself.